Yeah.
Tyreek Hill is heavily connected to the Kansas City Chiefs. I am sure it would be Tyreek's first place if he could pick to go back to. At least I would think it would be. And the Chiefs have a need, and the Chiefs are interested, and they're not worried about any of his other question marks.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
51-0, Donnie.
Yeah.
Those numbers don't lie. Georgia, every time they rush for over 200 yards, that's dating back from 2017 against FCS and FBS opponents. They don't lose. The 2 years that they won back-to-back national championships, year one, they rushed for over 208 times. Year two, when they beat TCU, that year they rushed for over 206 times.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Look at the weather, try to look for some anytime touchdowns or maybe some props that you really feel confident about. But it's always the time for urgency, especially for a team like the New York Giants. I think that defense is something that can give Giants fans hope. And then if you get Dart under center, it's hope. And then if you can get Scatterboo out there and the whole building's going boo, it's hope. And as we know, hope works.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid. It's the most beautiful time of the year. No, not because of foliage or pumpkin spice lattes. It's because of football. SportsGrid has you covered all season long, covering every snap, every score, and every line move. Prepare, watch, win. Weekends are for winners. Only on SportsGrid.
We're moving back to D.C., plus Greg Olson responds to LeBron about the NFL Christmas Day games. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Front Office Sports Today from FOS Studios here in New York City. I'm Baker Machado.
And I'm Renee Washington, and thank you guys so much for joining us each and every weekday as we chat the biggest stories in the business and culture of sports. We also have Up and Adams host Kay Adams on later, but first let's dive into the headlines in the shoot-around.
Yes, indeed, and let's start, Renee, in college football, as the NCAA officially now moving to a single off-season transfer portal window, now eliminating the period in the spring, and this now would mean players would only have one opportunity per year to change schools. The move came after the Football Oversight Committee voted to move to a single 10-day transfer portal window with an official date to be decided later. This comes as head coaches, including Ohio State's Ryan Day, criticized the current spring window that his teams, Renee, competing in the college football playoff also had to deal with roster construction for the next season.
Yeah, there were a number of coaches that were okay with this and happy for this because they said that just hopefully minimizes some of the chaos. Now, that window from January 2nd to 11th does also come with some other changes that they're looking to roll out, as well as changing the dead periods, changing the recruiting process, changing when written and verbal offers can be made. So they're trying to manage and tweak some of these key components to the transfer portal, which, as we know, has been very chaotic so far. But of course, on the other side, I'm sure there are others that are not happy about this single window, especially if that means you have to rush maybe a decision.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because it was, to your point, so many college coaches are just getting used to this new NIL environment. Having to be in the college football playoff and having to basically get new players for the next season was too much for a lot of coaches out there. Maybe not for Ryan Day because he won the national championship, but still. All right, meanwhile, what could be major news for Major League Soccer? ESPN says Lionel Messi and Inter Miami are now finalizing a new multi-year contract. This would keep the superstar in South Beach for the foreseeable future. And despite interest from other international clubs, Inter Miami's owner said the club would do anything in their power to get Messi to stay and even retire with the team.
Yeah, since Messi took his talents to South Beach back in July of 2023, that contract is expected to expire at the end of this season, does pay him an annual salary of about $20.5 million, and the total value of that 130 to 150 million, honestly does not even speak values to how much he's helped in the investment towards Major League Soccer, Inter Miami. In general, the global presence, the revenue increase, Apple TV having dedicated Messi-specific channels and components, different newsletters, and so many things that Major League Soccer, Inter Miami as a club, as well as Messi have been able to benefit off of. Jersey sales, ticket sales. So I do think it makes sense, especially with the World Cup coming up. Messi's made it clear he intends to play in the World Cup next summer, so this deal, that multi-year contract, could run through to ensure he's playing with Inter Miami while he's preparing for the World Cup and after.
And
but
I don't want to be dramatic, but like MLS MLS losing somebody like Messi at this period to all the things you just said could have been really cataclysmic for the league if that ended up happening.
It could have been. And so within the next couple of weeks, we should get an official deal coming into fruition. But for the club, for all he's accomplished for the league, yes, you have to lock in Messi.
All right, Major League Baseball says they're not going to play a pair of previously scheduled games in London in 2026. This all due to scheduling conflicts of converting the soccer pitch at London Stadium into a baseball field. The Athletic says the Yankees and Blue Jays were scheduled to play June 13th and 14th, just 20 days after West Ham United's final Premier League match of the season. And Renee, converting that field into such a short time frame to a baseball field was just way too expensive and labor intensive.
And Baker, when we had a chance to catch up with Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred earlier this week at our Tune In event, he spoke so highly in excitement about the opportunities to grow baseball globally, more marquee events, more of those one-offs, more opportunities to reach a different audience. But with this London situation, it's not the only situation they've had, because they also have had to cancel plans to play in Paris because they couldn't find a promoter. So Major League Baseball is kind of in that spot now. We've seen the success of the London series, but we've also seen the backlash. I know my Phillies and other teams have complained about how difficult it is to travel across the pond in the middle of a 162 regular season schedule already. So they are figuring out, much like soccer's actually ironically dealt with, how do you best balance these international competitions in the midst of such a congested, already established sports schedule?
And by the way, they thought about moving it to a later date, but that would have interfered with Fox's World Cup coverage. And then you had all these other headaches that would have come with it as well. Baseball has the World Baseball Classic next year. They'll be
we
just
do get
fine.
the international series in Mexico
All right,
City.
well, after a frantic last-minute negotiation with city council members, the Commanders are officially returning to the District of Columbia. This after local legislators voted to approve public funding for a $3.8 billion venue at the grounds of RFK Stadium. So how did the deal get done? Well, let's look into that in our main event. And let's bring in FOS reporter David Rumsey. David, so tell us how this got across the finish line.
Yeah, Baker, this has been just a really complicated process, as we've been covering a lot at Front Office Sports ever since the Commanders announced earlier this year that they had a deal to build a new domed stadium, billions of dollars that it was going to cost. And originally, President Trump came out in support of this because it's so complicated with the site that they want to build on, the old RFK site where their former stadium was. That's on federal land, so you have to have the federal government in favor of this and allow that land to be used, and maybe even support with some funding. Then you have the DC Council, which has been the problem over the past few months. They had this huge announcement with President Trump and Roger Goodell and Josh Harris, and they said, we have a new stadium. We're bringing the draft here as well, by the way, to DC, and it's all kind of related, right? But then eventually the DC Council said, hey, we don't want to give you the funding. Why, this whole debate always is, why are the public taxpayers paying for billionaire NFL owners to get their stadium built? But now in the end, it's going to be $3.8 billion stadium. Right now, about $1.1 billion in public funding. And so that means Josh Harris and his team at the Commanders are going to be on the hook for $2.5 billion at least in private funding. And we know these stadiums always go over budget. So we'll see if that price tag gets above $4 billion at the end.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, and what I thought was interesting is there were several people that were skeptical about this proposal, including one council member that's actually come out, Charles Allen himself, and saying, well, he now understands the bigger vision and how this can help the city 50 years from now. What essentially changed? Because there were conversations even going into yesterday that seemed like this was on the fence. What helped push this over the finish line in terms of changes of opinion?
Right, and I think what you're alluding to is these stadiums are bigger than just a stadium. It's not just 8 to 10 football games a year. It's a mixed use development. So we'll see what they end up actually ending up with. But, you might have shopping, retail, hotels, apartments, and you just kind of build a whole nother city around these stadiums. And that obviously creates a lot of revenue for the team itself and the team's owners. But you do bring in a lot of business, a lot of local economic impact. We see when there's a Super Bowl in a town or a big event, everybody's always touting, hundreds of millions of dollars, even billions of dollars of economic impact, which, those numbers can be a little shaky sometimes, but there's definitely no doubt that if you have a stadium like the Commanders are trying to build with this mixed use development, it is going to be good for the city and bring in a lot of business. And I think that's why the the politicians eventually got on board.
David, you mentioned President Trump and all of this. Of course, he famously said that he would have the federal government hold up the stadium deal if the team did not revert back to its previous team name, which we should note is deemed offensive by certain Native American groups. Is that over? Can President Trump still delay this at all, or is that period with the federal government over here?
Well, I would never say never with President Trump and his sports dealings. So I think for now, the water's kind of calmed down. Things have quieted. They have the funding from the D.C. Council. Originally Trump has already approved it. So I don't foresee him holding it up at this point. But, I mean, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. But that always seemed like it was kind of maybe just a wider threat from Trump. But who knows moving forward.
Yeah, and also on a macro level, we see a number of different NFL franchises that are getting stadium deals done. The Bills, the Broncos, the Bears, the Titans, whether it's done or close to being done for several reasons. You hit on the opportunity outside of NFL games to be able to host international events and other events and concerts and so many things you can do within that. But also for the Commanders specifically in this new regime after moving on from Snyder, how much is this deal changing locations, all these things kind of come together to change the era of Washington football?
Yeah, it's a great point. Just like they've been improving on the field and getting fans back in and excited, this is obviously just going to be the next step, right? We mentioned the draft coming to D.C. now in 2027, and that will build into this new stadium. And we'll see, where the team is on the field then with Jaden Daniels and Dan Quinn. Right now, it seems like they're still trending up. But yes, definitely a new era because Dan Snyder had so much trouble in a lot of areas, but also getting a stadium deal done. He was working on this for years too. FedEx Field, not it's not FedEx Field anymore, but the former FedEx Field, not what people would consider an elite stadium in the NFL. So certainly getting this dome, be able to have Super Bowls, more events there, definitely the next era for the Commanders.
All right, David Rumsey, FOS reporter, joining us on this. David, thank you so much. And coming up next, NFL personality Kay Adams is going to be joining us next. She's talking all about the YouTube broadcast from Brazil and so much more. Don't go anywhere.
Aaron Rodgers, 2-year stint with the Jets that he'll never want to remember when he goes into the Hall of Fame. He'll just say, please don't mention that. Now he's with Pittsburgh, and he had his best game since Green Bay. Threw 5 touchdowns. Is it 5, right? Am I right about that, Sam? I don't want to screw this up, too. 4 touchdown passes. Yeah, I screwed up again. 4 touchdown passes against the New York Jets. Buy or sell, Aaron Rodgers will finish the season as a QB1 in a 12-team league, top 12 fantasy quarterback. Buy or sell.
The cop out here is he stays healthy at Jets, right? He'll do it. They're not asking a lot. Top 12. Purdy's already not going to be top 12, right? He's already going to miss this week, probably another week, maybe as much as 5. They've said. So you knock him out there. There'll be other quarterbacks that get hurt, so you knock them out. I don't think he'd ever get top 5, top 6, top 8. But the 9 to 12, I hate to say it, he wasn't bad last year with the Jets. Right? They didn't win games, but he wasn't bad. He had it when he played. He was a good, solid quarterback. He can still sling it. He still can. I'm the first to admit those 4 touchdowns. It wasn't like he had a monster game. A couple of his interceptions were dropped. That should have been picked off there. It seems like he did complete work for touchdowns. A couple of breakdowns by the Jets as well. So I don't see him really as going to win a league for you. But I'm going to buy this if he stays healthy. Hell, just give me 15 games, and I think he can be top 12. So I'll buy this.
I'm going to sell it. Yeah. I mean, games against the Browns and games against the Ravens. And look, I don't know if the Jets defense is as bad as they've showed. If it is, then this may be his best game of the season. So, yeah, I'm going to sell. I think he's on the outside of this looking in.
Fantasy Sports Today. Fridays starting at 3 p.m. Eastern. Only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back, everyone, to Front Office Sports Today. I'm Baker Machado in New York. Well, the NFL is coming off its very first streamed game on YouTube. Plus, what do we think of the Thursday night matchup we got this week? Well, let's bring the host of Up and Adams, which, of course, you can watch over on FanDuel TV, and, of course, NFL personality Kay Adams. Kay, good to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
My first visit. I can't believe it's taken 3 weeks into the season for this to happen, but I'm here ahead of your birthday, Baker. Let's do this. Thanks for having me.
Yes, first stop, but not your last, for sure, Kay. Let's talk about the YouTube broadcast, which of course you were a part of. It was really exciting to be able to watch a game on YouTube for the very first time. Talk a little bit about the logistics of being able to pull that off. And I guess, were you surprised that less than 20 million people tuned in for this thing?
I loved it. I thought it was such a huge success. I was honored to be part of something that made history, a global audience offering it for free globally to an audience where 230 countries, I believe, and territories got to experience the NFL. I love football, and I love the fact that the whole concept is just growing it, bringing it to more of an audience, bringing it to a different audience. I think YouTube is like the life of the party. That's how I feel. And anything that they do, there's a big event, there's something going on, YouTube is there. They want to be a part of it. So it was an amazing experience going down to Sao Paulo, beautiful city. Of course, the second year the game was there, but the first one under YouTube. It's always really an honor. And I like being a part of things that are new. I like building things. So that was really cool. And I loved it. Yeah.
Well, on top of that, I mean, you've done the Netflix Christmas Day games as well. What do you sort of think of these new, non-traditional broadcast partners that are now getting involved with the NFL? Roger Goodell has said many times that he wants to sort of expand past the traditional broadcast networks.
Of course. I mean, what we did, what you saw on YouTube, you had these watch-alongs with people like iShowSpeed that had these huge communities. And I think growing the audience is great. I think any football fan, if they're a diehard football fan, was serviced. The game was beautifully done, beautifully shot. Rich Eisen and Kurt Warner did an excellent, brilliant job. It was crisp. I loved watching. It was aesthetically pleasing. And you got all the football you wanted in a heck of a game, by the way. And then you got these other experiences that were more focused on being interactive and creator driven. And Mr. Beast is no joke. And having guys like Destroying and seeing how enthusiastic everyone is with their community. And I'll say it needs to grow. This is a global audience now we're talking about. So yeah, I thought it was fantastic to have some of those Brazilian creators as part of it. There are people from all walks of life, creators that know football and don't, and there's room for everybody. And that's why I think Mr. Commissioner, very smart to be doing what he's doing, of course, knows what he's doing. And the streams were popping. It was great.
We, of course, know your show, Up and Adams, which, of course, is syndicated everywhere and licensed everywhere, but, of course, we see it on FanDuel TV. Do you sort of like the idea that these sort of non-traditional sort of, sports platforms like a FanDuel TV and all these other ones are popping up out there to bring more independent creators like yourself out there?
Yeah, I think everything's changing so fast. It's so exciting. We were joking before we came on the air, Baker, that your job, you probably don't sleep.
No.
With how much change there is and how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
I've always seen it as an opportunity. And I'll say this about YouTube. I am so blown away by how much emphasis they put on the creators and their audience. This was a broadcast for the audience and their audience. And that is what drives them. I also love that companies like YouTube and Netflix, they operate from a place of yes. They're, how do we make this happen? How do we dream big? How do we use our resources? And they have them. And that's really exciting. So yeah, I think that's just the next, it's that old Wayne Gretzky line of, I go where the puck, I skate to not where the puck is going. And so in partnering with FanDuel, in going and starting Up and Adams, it was very much with that in mind. And I want to have my own thing. They are awarding me the opportunity to do that beautifully. I'm grateful to them always. And to be able to sort of have something that is my own. And now you're seeing how important that is.
Yeah. And so what do you want to do in terms of growing this property of Up and Adams? I mean, obviously, you're talking to us from your home, but where do you sort of see this show going? I mean, you go on the road every NFL training camp. You do a lot of travel as well. But where do you sort of see this show going? And where do you want it to go?
It's been on YouTube just a little bit over a year. So growing on YouTube. And they've been so supportive of everything that I want to do and taking me on the road. We have some fun stuff coming up with YouTube, so I'm super excited to be partnering with them. I think I like connecting with NFL players. Like I was at an event here in LA last night, and when somebody said, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I was like, "I talk to NFL players all day. I just get to catch up with them for an hour a day." I think I have the freedom to do whatever I want. So I'm exploring all options. YouTube, super supportive. FanDuel, super supportive. So when you have that, I guess the sky's the limit.
Well, do you also think that that's sort of the secret sauce with your show? Because I think you have this great personality and conversation with a lot of these athletes that are very different from the traditional sort of conversations and interviews that they're doing out there. Do you feel like that's what's made your show sort of different and stand out?
I think that it's my curiosity probably stands out. I also think I'm not beholden to, I can sort of be curious. I'm not afraid to be direct and honest, but ask the question I want to ask. But I wouldn't say that I don't know that they're different. I'm stuttering through the question because I think there's so many content creators and so many journalists and so many personalities, analysts that create and ask brilliant questions. So if I were to say what makes my show stand out is that I think I'm a little bit irreverent and I'm authentic I'm doing my show from my living room today. Now I'm in a hotel room. Now I'm interviewing Drake May from my car because I couldn't make it from point A to point B. I think that's what led to success on Good Morning Football was, the mic went off. We're not going to freak out. Like, let's not be so serious. We don't need to wear suits every day. Like, it's football. Let's have fun.
Wait, so did you just say you've done your show from like your car? Like, where's the weirdest place you've done your show?
Well, I think when you I think the best for me, one of my favorite things about Up and Adams is that it's very nimble.
Yeah.
It is. You know what? I'm going to go to New York tomorrow because there's an opportunity, an event. There's a lacrosse championship. That's not football, but I get to go explore that. I went. I interviewed the 2-star players from that ahead of the championship that was on ABC proper on Friday. And we can make those decisions and be nimble in that way. And when those are the realities, things like Zoom and technology and Riverside or whatever you want to use, they come in clutch. But sometimes it's you have to go. If Drake May wants to talk to me and he can only talk to me at 2 Eastern, then I'm gonna have to find an airport to talk to Drake May and figure that out. And it's not always pretty or clean or crisp. And I don't care about that as much. And I do think that that's sort of the new era and where content is going. It is beautiful to have a studio, and there's importance to that and polish and having so much care. But I really feel like it's just connecting to your audience. And there's no better way to do that, I think, than the way that I'm having this interview with you right now.
Yeah, totally. It's so authentic. I would much rather be in my kitchen than in a studio as well. Kay Adams, such a pleasure to have you.
I love the studio, but I do think that it's just, it's operating from a place of yes.
We have a lot more Front Office Sports Today headed your way right after this quick break.
They have Boise State, they have Arkansas, they have USC. There's no shot in Purdue. Those are the only big games that they have the rest of the way. They're not getting back into the college football playoff. They're not, Donnie. I don't care if they've won 10 straight.
Remember when they lost to NIU? No way, no care. What happens the rest of the season? They can't get in. Who was in the college football championship last
They
year?
had marquee wins at some point.
I don't care. They lost to NIU.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
I needed a mental break when the season was over. Because it's a lot. It's a lot. You get tired of training. But, man, I never get tired of playing golf. I love it. I mean, every course is different. Every day is different. And some days you're like, oh, I got this. I got it. Then you go out there and shoot a 95 the next day. I'm like, damn.
The Smiley Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, I think so. You talk about how difficult it is to bring an expansion team into the league and have success in your first season. That's fairly unheard of. And not only have success, but they're in the playoffs. So I think she certainly deserves to win Coach of the Year. There's a lot of different candidates that could potentially, you could make a case for them. But I think just with this being an expansion team and how difficult that is.
Betting above the rim. Only on SportsGrid.
It was nice to see that even though they couldn't follow the same blueprint as last season or just the way that everyone thought their offense was going to run this year, Josh Jacobs struggled and Jordan Love stepped up. And if you're a Packer fan, that's what you were hoping to see, is that in the moments where you can't rely on the run, can the quarterback that you invested a lot of money into, now draft capital, putting weapons around him, rise to the occasion, and he did.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Front Office Sports is live at Tuned In here at the Time Center here in New York City, and we are joined by Greg Olsen, former NFL great and, of course, one of the best play-by-play and color analysts on Fox. Greg, I want to talk about that game last weekend between the Giants and the Cowboys, which was wild, went to overtime. Where would that stack up in all of the games that you've called in your career?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a regular season game, right, you start talking about some postseason games when the stakes are a little higher. those endings feel a little bit bigger. But for just a random week 2 regular season game, that's probably as fun, as exciting. It had all the action, had high offenses. We had 64-yard field goals. We had overtime, multiple possessions, 300 penalties. It was a fully packed game. It was a lot of fun to be a part of. And, like, those are the games each week you dream of. Because it's like, if I could just get that game, it flies by.
So,
there's so much to talk about.
Top 5, you would say, maybe?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's good.
Totally. Top 5's totally safe.
Okay, a game you dream of. I hear you were locked in your dreams and maybe slept in a little bit and missed your Barstool. What happened?
I owe Portnoy and Gruden. I owned up to it. So Sunday night after my game in Dallas, I flew actually to Kansas City, met some of the folks from Fox, and went to dinner. We went out to Kelsey and Mahomes opened a new restaurant last weekend in Kansas City. So flew there, went to dinner with them, saw Burkhart and Aaron Andrews and Blandino and Carissa and just some of my friends from those days. And we went out, we had a nice time, and I set my alarm to Eastern time. And again, I was traveling, I was in multiple cities. I had to do an 8:20 hit with Dave and Gruden, but it was 7:20 in Kansas City. I was late getting on. I apologized. I'll be on next Monday.
Right.
I'll make sure my alarm is set, and I'll do like some up downs, some gassers. Well, they can't find me.
Right,
but
exactly.
I'll like punish myself to build up. So
accountability.
I'm a big accountability guy.
Or just don't even go to bed. Just don't even go to bed.
They don't want that.
Obviously, you've done Fox. We've seen you on Netflix. Do you prepare for games or look at games differently if they're on a streamer or something different than a traditional broadcast network?
No, I think it's a good question. But I really just prepare for that game, right?
Yeah.
Who are these teams? What does it look like? Who are they? What are the matchups? What if I was a viewer? What am I interested in? Whether I'm a diehard Cowboy fan, Giant fan, or if I'm just a general football fan and it's a holiday and I'm just tuning in. So understanding what your audience is, who are they, what do they want to see, tell them what they're seeing on the field, but more importantly, why are they seeing it? Lay it out. What is that? What platform it's on. When the game starts, no different than as a player. The game is the most important thing. The audience is the most important thing. And our job is to provide as much value to that viewing experience as we can.
I know we're only going into week 3, but you were a part of the Christmas Day games last year. Of course, that'll be here before we know it. With these marquee events for the league and new faces involved, what do you make of all this that the NFL's doing?
I think it's fun. I'm excited. We have a pseudo marquee game. We're going to go call the game in a couple weeks in Dublin, Ireland. First game ever in Dublin. So our crew, Joe and Pam and I, we're really excited to go out there and produce and commentate that game. I think the NFL is doing a really good job continuing to grow their brand, build it to new markets, bring it to new audiences, because there's no mistake. The appetite for American football has never been greater. And I think the NFL and Roger Goodell, I think, and obviously all the TV networks and whatnot taking part, the media future of NFL football, I think, is fascinating, as obviously you guys do too. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Well, last question. LeBron said, look, Christmas Day is the NBA's. Are you okay sharing it with the NBA?
LeBron, we love you, man. You're awesome. I think the NFL on Christmas Day is here to stay.
I think so, too.
I think obviously Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, these standalone events. But then, listen, Sunday afternoon, you tune in to hopefully Fox. Football is still a Sunday appointment viewing television. So I do think there's a fine line between the one-offs and the big moments, but also understanding our core business. Sunday NFL football is still must-watch TV.
Yeah, and there's still nothing like NFL football on Sunday.
Amen. And we know all those must-watch games Greg's going to be a part of as well. Greg, thank you so very much for joining us. We got more of some of the biggest players and media executives here tuned in with Front Office Sports. All right, Renee, let's see what's bubbling at the FOS water cooler. Josh Allen and New Era are collaborating with a local Buffalo Children's Hospital. This is to auction off specially designed 940 Bills hats for hospital patients. These are also designed by Allen as well. Now, before the season, select patients gathered for a customization party. That's where they were given the hats and were also encouraged to add designs to them. And the best part, Josh Allen's wearing each of these individually designed caps before each Bills home game this season. I love this.
He's done so much work with the Patricia Allen Fund at the hospital, which is in honor of his grandmother. And so to see him continuously, as his career grows on the field, also grow all the work he's doing for cancer patients, especially the children, it's remarkable to see. These hats themselves are adorable, creative, and just really fun hats. I would want one.
Absolutely. All right, guys, that's it for this edition of the show. Renee and I are back next week. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
If you're in the Super Bowl market, if you're in the futures market, that's a big deal.
Yeah.